Good morning. This is Isaac Newton, and this is another mini episode of Religion is Mental Illness. Today is Monday, December 11th, 2017. Today, something pretty important is happening among several other ridiculous things in government. Now they're trying to deregulate the internet. And I have to say, in some ways, I'm a little bit mixed. Really, it's not okay. Net neutrality is there for a reason. It is protecting people from internet providers who may decide they want to impose charges or change fees for service. It could be an extreme change. It could be a very small change. But it's gonna be different, and I don't think it's gonna come out to be better long term. But once again, let's talk about what's the motivation behind this. Well, again, this is the super rich taking another chance to pass legislation that is designed to make them more money, and that's what we've been doing. That's what the government does, but now it's an extreme level. But here's the thing, and this is one of those things that gets me about these religious fundamentalists, people of religion who are influencing. They're allowing this influence to perpetuate an environment that is actually, and in the long term, it's going to be detrimental to them. So, again, we put, well, not we, these, right-leaning conservatives who refuse to accept that their candidate is a dirty piece of shit, are still backing these horrible, self-serving people. And these people are using blind rhetoric. I mean, Donald Trump just says stuff. He doesn't even think about what he says. He says, really ridiculous things. He's making decisions that are stupid. There's no reasonable claim for him to make about why he's making these decisions, except that religious fundamentalists who more or less control the Republican Party have provided an environment where the president and these uneducated, ineffective morons can make decisions about people's lives without any, there's no background. He doesn't have a history lesson. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand the implications of his decisions. You have Israel and that sort of a thing, and the Great Wall of Mexico, and these are all subjects that he doesn't have any education on. And he's making decisions to perpetuate his own, popularity. All he's doing is he's trying to keep promises that he can't keep, and he's trying to keep himself popular with a collective ignorant population. This is the voting Republican class is not big business. It's not these super rich corporate types. This is what's most ironic about this, is that the voters that put these people in office, like Roy Moore, who's probably, it looks very likely that he's about to be put into office, despite the fact that he's a child molester. And there's, multiple claims against him. But the people of Alabama, and it's Alabama, so it's the Bible Belt. It's extremely right-leaning, highly conservative. But this population is not rich. This population is some are middle class, more are lower middle class. Several of them are, close to the poverty line. But they're making the decisions they make and voting because they're voting based on religion. And again, they've made decisions that have brought us to these issues like net neutrality, where these corporations, these rich, the super rich, the elite, are influencing the government heavily to repeal net neutrality because it gives them an opportunity to make more money. And anybody that, claims differently, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, probably not very well educated people, that are probably trying to make up excuses or give some kind of a rationalization, or, trying to say something about how the government shouldn't be allowed to impose net neutrality and regulate the internet. And I see another side of this. Now, this is, again, like I said, this is religious influence on government. This is violation of church and state, and separation of church and state. But it's also considered acceptable because nobody making decisions is coming out and saying, we're doing this because the Christian people wanted us to. And that's sort of even worse, because if you listen to the excuses these people make, they're moronic. Now, the other side of this coin is, if they repeal net neutrality, and some people may not know that Google is actually a significant proponent of net neutrality. They do not want deregulation of the internet. Same with Amazon. Same with a number of very large internet-related entities. And there's also another population of, the best way to describe them is hackers, who I believe when this happens, these people, anonymous and whatnot, they're going to retaliate. If we see corporations and businesses and internet providers using the repeal of net neutrality to create slower speeds on the internet and faster speeds on the internet, deliberately to block some websites or to make people buy certain products because of sponsorship. What's going to happen if these people decide that that's not okay, which they will? It's gonna result in some interesting consequences, and these consequences may very severely affect how the internet works as a whole, because they're going to start doing things. And honestly, I support this. I will not be one of these people, but I support this sort of retaliation to hack these essentially criminals. They've legalized criminality. Now, I don't know how many people know this, but Russia is an influence on net neutrality. They're part of this collective, super elite, uneducated population. Now, don't get me wrong, the Russian people making these decisions are in no way uneducated. Not only are they educated, they're experienced in being subversive. And the fact that we as a country, especially our leadership, who's so obvious in collusion with Russia, we're allowing, as a country, we're allowing Russia to interfere in our country, our way of life, and nobody's really doing anything about it. This is what gets me the most, and I know that the question would be posed, well, what would we do about it? And many of the actions could be considered illegal. Taking actions that will actually change something, because people protesting isn't working. Protests have become completely ineffective, and now the government, as these people are protesting, our government is using their authority in their jurisdictions with law enforcement and the police to effectively create a breakdown in the effectiveness of these protests. People were protesting the tax bill, and I once again, this is people in the government made decisions to serve themselves, and the people that are going to pay for it are the people who voted for these idiots. And that's the long and the short of it. But everybody else has to pay for it too. We're gonna cause some serious issues. Some people are saying that this is the environment of the Great Depression. These are the actions that were taken prior to the Great Depression. I don't know if in our modern age, if that's going to happen. We had in 2008 the same issue, not quite as severe, but very similar, and it was fairly well known that the Bush administration had a lot of influence on that. And again, right-wing religious fundamentalists who decided that they want to make decisions and not take, let's not forget, they don't take responsibility for these decisions. Their excuse is always, this is what God wants, or, this country needs more Jesus, or some dumb fucking religious nut job bullshit. But now what we're doing is we are allowing these people to do these things. And so the next question is, what do we do about it? I've heard people talk about critical mass. The idea that when enough people are pissed off about this, there's going to be a potentially violent response. And then, then what's going to happen? What's it going to be like then? So we're looking at definitely an interesting future in this country. At best, There will be little consequence. These decisions that the president and his cronies are making will have some effect, but no significant effect. I don't think that's likely. The other end of the spectrum is violence, outbreaks of violence, and reactions to government that are perhaps, I don't know, I hate to use the word revolutionary because that's pretty severe. But there should be nobody should be under any delusion that things are improving because of the people that are in government. They're fucking us over, folks, and they're getting away with it. And no matter how hard people are trying, even our justice system, which has been wholly ineffective for a very long time, we imprison more people than we help, and we, as a country, our justice system perpetuates a lot of the issues that we have, a lot of the problems with violence and criminality, and a lot of the biases in our country are heavily based on our justice system that has been, if you don't have money, you're not going to get away with a crime. That's all there is to it. If you walk into a courtroom without money, the judge is going to put you in jail if he can. On the other end of that coin, if you have money and you rape and murder 20 people, there's a good chance you're going to get away with it. Because if you have money, you can buy your freedom. And our justice system is based on buying what you want. People don't want to say that. Well, everybody says it. The justice system certainly wouldn't agree with that, and they'd be lying. I have personal experiences, and I've done some research, and you hear it all the time. Our justice system is ineffective, and this is being clearly demonstrated in Washington. Nobody's unsure about whether or not Trump and his merry idiots were in collusion with Russia to affect the election in 2016. And there's no notice that as we see this happening, there's no hold on a minute, we need to reconsider the election. We need to reconsider the way that things are happening, and who got put in charge, and maybe instead of just accepting it, I mean, really, we're just pulling our pants down and bending over so that they can do whatever the fuck they want. And now these people are making these decisions, and they're getting away with it because, in part, Russia is interfering with our government. Let's try to get our heads wrapped around this. Our enemy, the enemy of our country, our enemy in the Cold War, based on threat of nuclear war, a communist country, well known for the abuse of its people, for a totalitarian way of life, a country that has an extremely volatile economic system. These Russians, they're influencing, they're taking an active role in what happens in our country. And they're getting away with it, people. They're getting away with it. A lot to think about. Definitely something, I think there's some things to be really concerned about. What actions do we take? I think for now we just have to kind of wait and see what happens. But in the long run, if we continue as a country, as a people, to kind of turn a blind eye, do our little bits of protesting here and there, and not really make an effective response, if our government continues to sit idly by in their highly ineffective way, if they continue to be as weak as this is no better time to see how useless our government has been of late. If this keeps happening, we need to be ready for it. I can't say I'd be too happy if I lived in the city right now. Of course, at least if you're in the city, you're surrounded by more of the more reasonable people, which is sort of an ironic thing to say. But if you live in the city, typically cities have a more left-leaning population that's more accepting of rationality, as opposed to other people who are highly conservative and generally fucking morons. So we'll see. We'll see how these things turn out. It's going to be interesting. I hope it's not anything too extreme. This is Isaac Newton. This has been another mini episode of Religion is Mental Illness. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.